Hello, my name is Michael Conneely, and this video is about the two eclipses of June 2020, how to interpret them, how to understand them, and what to do about them. So, on the 5th of June, there's a lunar or full moon eclipse, and that's at 21 Vedic Scorpio in Giesta Nakshatra, with the Sun at 21 Vedic Taurus in Rohini Nakshatra. And then on the 21st of June, there is a new moon or solar eclipse, and the Sun and Moon are at 6 degrees Vedic Gemini in Mrigashira Nakshatra, in Mrigashira Pada 4, the Scorpio Pada. In Western astrology, this eclipse is at Naught Cancer. Now, please do see the associated blog for this video. The address of the blog is below the YouTube screen, because there's so much worthwhile interpretation, so very much that I can't really do justice to in a verbal filmed presentation. And I think the thing to be said is that the second of these two eclipses, the 21st of June, well, after it there's one more eclipse on the 14th of December, and those two dates are the identical dates of the 9/11 Twin Towers attack in 2001. So we have three eclipses left this year: 5th of June, 21st of June and 14th of December, and they need to be taken very seriously. They need to be understood. Now, there is a slight difference in that Pluto was transiting towards the eclipse in 2001, whereas this eclipse on the same day in 2020, Pluto is just past the eclipse, just like 1 degree past. But of course that is a conjunct, and so it remains to be seen what these eclipses will produce at the personal level and at the societal level. So I'd also say on my Star Wheel Astrology website there is a page about how to interpret eclipses, giving the factors you could go through to work out what you think an eclipse will mean in your life. And the link to that webpage is in the associated blog. So basically, what is the nature of an eclipse? Well, traditionally it was seen as downfall and disaster, and it can be that. You see, an eclipse energy is like that of an earthquake. Basically, tension builds up, builds up, builds up in the earth crust. And then an earthquake comes along, there's terrible disruption, and the tension is released. Eclipses are the same. So if we're off course in our life, doing it wrongly in our life or in a certain part of our life, an eclipse, say it's on one of our planets, particularly if it's on Sun, Moon and Ascendant, or in a particular house in our chart, the life affairs of that house, the eclipse will produce undamming. And if we're off course in our life, that feels like disaster, major problems. But if we're on course in our life, it can be so liberating, it can really make the flower more fully. Now, the Western and Vedic astrology for these two June eclipses, and indeed the December eclipse, are all on the relevant month page of my Star Wheel Astrology website, and you can see in the associated blog, link below, the link to the month page for June and indeed December. So I feel, and there's actually a third eclipse coming up on the 5th of July. So we've got 5th of June, 21st of June and 5th of July. This is not a minor time. This is not to be disregarded. It's not to be blanked out. There's an exceptional number of eclipses in 2020 anyway. See the list of them in the blog post. And another thing eclipses so importantly do is they raise the shadow stuff in our life. So often we live with buried past life material, buried wounds from this life, buried and split off talents that we weren't allowed to acknowledge as part of us because of our childhood upbringing, religious upbringing, the job, the society or whatever. An eclipse can raise the shadow stuff to the light. And basically just to say that fear and tension we can feel on the day of an eclipse. So make a note in your diary when these 4 eclipses, the 2 in June, the 1 in July and the 1 in December are, remembering that the 21st of June and the 14th of December are the 9/11, the sun is in the same place. Make a note in your diary to take that day carefully and steady. And yes, notice what comes up, what inspirations, what clarifications, what understandings, what statements of need for healing and empowerment. So first of all, let's look at the first of the 2 eclipses, 5th of June, lunar eclipse, full moon eclipse. So that's at 21 Vedic Scorpio in Giesta Nakshatra, 16 Western Sagittarius. And the sun is at 21 Vedic Taurus, opposite the moon in Rohini Nakshatra at 16 Western Gemini. And as I said, the charts are on the June month page in my Star Wheel Astrology website. Now, because this is a full moon eclipse, its effects will be immediate. We'll feel them on the day or within a few days afterwards. Now, a solar eclipse, like the one on the 21st of July, has delayed effects. So basically it creates a patch of stagnant energy in the heavens, and that may manifest, well, there's a sort of formula about for every minute the eclipse is visible, the effects take 1 year later to manifest. And then the other, I think, more realistic measure indeed is when a planet transits through that stagnant energy later on, it activates the eclipse energies. Can be big time, absolutely. So both methods are worth looking at. Now, how do you interpret the effects of the eclipse in your life? Well, obviously you get a reading from me and you go to the buy page on my Star Wheel Astrology website. But on the Star Wheel Astrology website, there's also a page about how to interpret eclipses. And so obviously you look at the planets that are affected. If the eclipse is conjunct one of your planets, it's big. If it's conjunct sun, moon or ascendant of yours, massive. Which house is the eclipse in? So if the eclipse is in your first house, where the ascendant is, the first house of body and self and how you project into the world, massive. But if it's in the 4th house, it could affect your mother and home. If it's in the 5th house, it could affect issues of creativity and children, and so on. And as I say, these are summarised on my How to Interpret pages on my website. And very importantly, you need to look at what nakshatra is affected. So the eclipse of the 5th of June is in Giesta Nakshatra. and there's good stuff about that in the blog post, but to summarise, basically Giesta's want security. The symbol of Giesta Nakshatra is like the earring, the elder sibling. They need some sort of status, but the point is the stars within a nakshatra are vastly important to know, and in Giesta is Antares, which says that a nemesis has to be overcome before success can be achieved. And so if the eclipse is in Giesta and you have like ascendant or a planet there, you'll feel quite possibly a nemesis, a catharsis. And Giesta's, the traditional law, L-O-R-E, of the wonderful nakshatra law, the traditional law of Giesta is that Giestas can become the authors of their own misfortune to provide a soul learning time in life. But if you handle this well, you become honoured and intent on your dharma. So, you know, this is a very big eclipse energy to have the eclipse in Giesta. But the divine purpose of it is that so the Giesta person or any of us who is affected by this eclipse can align more with our true self. Note that the nakshatras, the 27 nakshatras, are divided into 3 groups of 9 each, 3 lokas, and Giesta is at the end of the second group of 9, which is a tamas energy. So there has to be a nemesis and a catharsis to prepare for the next group of 9, which is a sattva energy. And Giesta, well, like all nakshatras, has a ruling deity, and Giesta's ruling deity is Indra, god of thunderstorms, lightning and fierce weather. So that's all about the need for us to, well, experience catharsis and nemesis, but also to control our emotions and open to the sattvic call, the gift of a negative emotion. So each nakshatra has 4 padas, and this eclipse on the 5th of June is in Giesta Pada 2, the Capricorn Pada. So also big issue is issues of right work focus, hard work, proper work, patience, endurance, completing the task, reaping the golden harvest, these great virtues of Capricorn. Now, in the blog post, I do list the deeper analysis dimensions of an eclipse, and they are so wonderful to predict how an eclipse will manifest in your life and to understand its effects. But they're too lengthy for a video. But I will, so I'll go on to the crucial point that Mars and Neptune are T-square this eclipse, and that means there's a potentially huge Neptune effect, and Neptune can be utterly wonderful. Please see my add-on blog for the June Star Wheel Astrology and Healing newsletter, or it can be disastrous illusion, escapism and dissolution. And so you need to check out how you're relating to Neptune at this time. But as I say in the blog, I've had loads of wonderful students doing wonderful Neptune type stuff, vision journeying, inspiration, sensitivity, healing, all those sort of things. And this blog could, this eclipse could undam that, putting putting your energy into the positive side of Neptune and hearing the warning about what the negative side of Neptune can do and avoiding that. So do watch that Neptune add-on video and blog, and do watch the add-on video and blog about how to interpret an eclipse. Okay, let's go to the 21st of June eclipse. And so basically the Sun and the Moon, it's a new moon, are in at 6° Vedic Gemini in Mrigashira Nakshatra, in the 4th pada of Mrigashira, which is the Scorpio pada. And in Western astrology, the 21st of June eclipse is at 0° Western Cancer. And note, big, very important thing, this eclipse too has the Mars-Neptune conjunction square it. So hear what I just said relevant to that, talking about the 5th of June eclipse. Now, the Scorpio pada of Mrigashira, where the 21st of June eclipse is, has all the sort of hurt nature of Scorpio, and the need to use our hurts in a shamanic death and rebirth way to find the spiritual potential thereof. So, and of course it's also got the special inspiration of Mrigashira Pada 4 that I've already talked about. So this 21st of June eclipse could be painful, could bring up hurts, but look for the inspiration, look for the healing, look for the empowerment. And as I said, there is a big parallel to the eclipses of 9/11, the Twin Towers, 2001, because this eclipse is on the same day as the June the 21st, 2001 eclipse, just as the 14th of December eclipse is. It could be argued, as I said, that the eclipses will be less vast in their effect because Rahu isn't heading into them, but Rahu is conjunct this eclipse, so we wait to see. Read the blog. I can't go into all this detail on the video, but obviously watch out at this time of eclipse in Mrigashira Pada 4, Scorpio Pada, finding yourself too tense and getting into arguments. Put the date in your diary. Note that you need to be aware of that. And also make a note of the inspirations that come through to you at this eclipse time. So, in the blog there are a couple of house examples, depending on rising sign, of how you'd interpret this eclipse. But basically, if you want a reading from me, go to my Star Wheel Astrology buy page. And if you want one of my courses in Western or Vedic astrology, each of which offers optional crossover to the other, go to my Master Vedic Astrology website. This is a very big time. 2020 is such a year, but I personally would say I've reaped such massive benefits from the lockdown, and it's so helpful to hear the energies coming up, hear what they are, hear how best to deal with them, how to transform your life, how to heal your life. Thank you.